Yes.
I was refraining.
COVID has not been the easiest thing because often we rely on businesses and industry to take our students on for internships, and a lot of them have just been unavailable to do that this year. So we've been very creative, and they're going to talk about the ways that they've been able to provide those opportunities to students despite the restrictions that they've had. So, Mr. Maddox?
All right, thank you, Dr. Arnold. Madam Chair, members of the board, we appreciate the opportunity to present information to you tonight about our internship program, which we call Work for Success. As Dr. Arnold stated, it's been difficult, it's been challenging this year, but we kind of had to think outside the box and use some of our own resources and our own staff to give students the opportunities to get to work-based learning activities. So I want to introduce Ms. Becky Booth. She is a new business teacher here at the high school, and she has also taken on responsibility of being the work-based learning coordinator. She's working with all of our students, working with businesses, working with our staff, and coordinating all of those activities that our students are getting to do. She's fabulous. She's doing a wonderful job. I can't thank her enough for everything she's done for the program. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Booth.
Thank you for the opportunity to tell you a little bit more about the Work for Success Career Internship Program here at Amherst County High School. And as Mr. Maddox said, this is my first year with the Career Internship Program and teaching at Amherst County High School, and I have thoroughly enjoyed working with the students, and it is so very rewarding to see them gain workplace readiness skills and to see that have an impact on their future endeavors. And whether that is continuing their education at a college, university, or technical school, or moving directly into the workforce. And so during the 2020-2021 school year, we've had 49 students that have either already completed or are still currently completing their Work for Success program. The breakdown is as follows. So during the fall semester, we had 29 students, including 7 in the ARA program. And this spring, we have 31 students, including 2 in the ARA, and 10 of those this spring are completing a second semester of the internship program. And as you've heard, COVID definitely has brought us a few challenges, and so several students have opted to work with a teacher or a staff member with Amherst County Public Schools for their workplace experience. And we've seen really great success with this, and I have one specific success story with that I will share with you in just a little bit. We've had several placements within the school division at Amherst County High School, Ellison Middle School, and even with the school board level. We have had placements in various subjects in CTE career areas. We've had math, auto mechanics, welding, the CNA nursing program, weight training, Spanish, biology, English, library science, and even computer repair. So as I work with the students at the beginning of the semester, I really do like to try to see what their career aspirations are, what their interests are, and they really vary. Some students come in and they are really targeted. They have their goal of what they want to do in the future, and others they're kind of still trying to figure it out. And the workplace Work for Success career internship program is really a good time to help them figure out, is this career really what I want to go into? So they get a little taste of that through this program. Other placements outside the school division have been Food Lion, McDonald's, Anderson's Country Market, Century 21, Zaxby's, Royal Delight Stables, Sweetbriar in the food services, Conley Pools, and then house remodeling and Banker Steel. Again, with the challenges of COVID and being in school 2 days a week and having remote days, another thing that the students have been required to do for this program is to complete remote day activities. And so the remote day assignments have ranged from submitting a weekly time log, which is something, of course, they would do on the job. So listing and recording the time that they have worked in their internship program. Interviewing techniques, an application form, communication skills, leadership skills, and more. So the primary objective of our program is to provide an exploratory and investigative opportunity for seniors to gain knowledge and understanding of career paths that they're interested in pursuing. The program will greatly improve their ability to make wise choices as they continue their education and pursue their career goals, or what their next step is after graduation. And I like to kind of think of graduation, it's not really an ending, but they're just changing their destination of what now they're moving on to, whether that's college, whether that's moving right into the workplace or technical school. Some juniors are also allowed in the program with permission of the administration. And this year we currently have one junior in the program. Next, I've given you a list of secondary objectives. I'm not going to read all of these, but I'll just pull out a few of these. So, secondary objective, to prepare to meet the expectations required to be successful in post-secondary education programs, again, whether that's college, university, or vocational technical school. To gain insight and understanding and expectations required to be successful in the workplace, so really building on their work ethic, being dependable, knowing that there's someone that the employer can count on being there and completing their job. To gain or to learn life skills critical for success in both work and personal lives. And to enhance feelings of self-worth by concentrating on identified areas of strengths. And so again, through that, really kind of investigating what the student may be interested in and trying to pair them with a work-based placement that would fit that. And the last one on this list, to provide students with an opportunity to meet professionals involved in a variety of careers. And so again, with how our school year is and limiting visitors inside the building, we really kind of got creative with this a little bit. So at the beginning of the school year, and really kind of brainstorming how we could do this, I initially thought of like a lunch meeting. And so Lancer Lunch and Learn was really kind of created out of that. And if we did not have COVID, ideally I think it would be great to have a meeting where students sign up to come to a specific location, bring their lunch to that meeting, and hear from a variety of different career fields, someone working in that field. Maybe even expanding on that, having one session on applying to college, maybe have another session on filling out the FAFSA, or a variety of other things that would be relevant to our students in the career internship program at their age. So what we chose to do instead of that meeting and keeping everyone socially distant, and lunches were different of eating lunch in our classrooms, we came up with basically a video series. So we would ask for videos from employers and various groups in the community to share video with us, just basically as informational, so that we could make this available really to all students, not just those in the career internship program in the high school, and teachers would show this during lunch. So that's what we did, and so once a week we would have the video, and then to go along with it, we would have a Google form or a quiz that the students would complete after it. So usually they answer about 5 to 7 questions at the most. And so after they've answered that, their name went into a drawing for a prize for that week, for A Day, B Day, and for the ARA students. So this year, so far, we've had videos from Commercial Steel Erection, Greif, ITG. We had one from Banker Steel. We had another video that was talking about workplace readiness skills. A video about Teachers for Tomorrow, that program at the high school. Another video about resumes and cover letters and interviewing. And then we had a video of Sweetbriar admissions and University of Lynchburg admissions. So we tried to, again, fill a few different options there and letting them see these aspects. So we hope to continue that next year, but maybe with lessening of COVID, we could have some in-person sessions to go along with that. Next up, I would like to show you a few pictures of some of our students in their work-based experiences. And so here we have a couple of students that were working with Mr. Pryor in building trades. And so this was taken around Christmas. Actually, behind them, they were working on a float that would be used for the judges for the Amherst County Christmas parade. Next, we have a student of library sciences. And so this student, she knew at the beginning of the year what she wanted to do, to go into library sciences, to major in that at college. And so we were able to, I'm not sure if you're seeing what I have there. There we go. And so to get that experience. So with the library not taking students or being open in the fall, we were able to place her with Mrs. Holmes in the library, and it's been an excellent experience for her to gain that experience. Next up, we have Sweetbriar Dining Services and Anderson's Country Market. And then we have Royal Delight Stables. And I was so impressed when I went to this visit to see the student on her job, and I just want to tell you a little bit more about her. So also prior to tonight, let me back up and say that we invited 4 career internship students to speak with you, to also give you a little take of their experience that they've experienced throughout the year. And so I would like to introduce these students to you, and the first one is our intern that worked at Royal Delight Stables, is still currently working there. Her name is Brianna Ellington, and so their supervisors on the job will fill out an evaluation form and give to me. As well as checking off different attributes and how they perform those, they also have an opportunity to say something about the student. So I wanted to share with you what her supervisor says. She says, Brianna exceeds all expectations in her responsibilities. And that's exactly what I saw when I visited there. So here you see even another picture where she's giving a writing lesson, and it's really is amazing to see how the student, she's working with her student, and even through that you can see the confidence that the student is gaining as he's improving his skills. Unfortunately, Brianna emailed late yesterday to let me know that her supervisor is sick and she had to work her shift for her this evening, and she was unable to be here with us tonight. But she did write a few statements for me to share on her behalf. So these are Brianna's words. So far, I have thoroughly enjoyed my internship at the stables and now have valuable experience under my belt. I have learned through my experiences the value of hard work and how to work as a team. I feel that I now have a good idea what it's like to run your own business and what it's like to work closely with the public on a day-to-day basis. Just being able to see how a business works, what really goes on behind the scenes. What you see on the surface has been an experience I can take with me. Having this internship has been a great lesson on dealing with real-life problems and situations. I now feel more prepared to obtain my goals and have a career that I've always wanted. And that was from Brianna Ellington. Next up, the second student that I invited was Bolden Daniels. And so I want to tell you a little bit about Bolden. He started the year as an intern with Mr. Johnston here at Amherst County High School. Mr. Johnston's our welding instructor. And Bolden is very goal-oriented. I believe on the very first day that I had him in class, he told me, he said, "I want to be a welder." And so throughout the fall semester, we began reaching out to a local employer. He even knew that he would like to work for Banker Steel. They perform a specific type of welding that he is really interested in. So throughout the fall semester, I began calling Banker Steel to see if they were taking any interns through their Banker High program. And they weren't because of COVID, but they heard about our student and was really interested in talking with him. So in November, we scheduled a virtual internship, which he completed in my classroom one afternoon during his internship period. And so I talked with him about how to follow up after the interview, and so he contacted those who interviewed him with that contact information. And he kept in contact with them over the next few weeks. So then after that communication, he received notification from Banker Steel that they would like to invite him in for an in-person meet and greet, and also a welding test and a blueprint reading test. So during that time, before that interview and the test in February, he worked very closely with Mr. Johnston during his career internship time with him to continue to hone his skills for that particular test and the blueprint reading. After that test and meeting with the individuals there at Banker Steel facility, they offered him a position. Even though Banker High was not fully opened, they said, "We would like for you to come in and work for us 3 days a week." So that's what he is currently doing now. So 3 days a week he is working there and getting this work experience with them. And actually he worked there today, and due to the time of him getting off and being able to get here, he was unable to get here today for our meeting at 6 o'clock. But also he wrote me a letter that I would like to share with you. Hello, my name is Bolden Daniels. I am a senior this year at Amherst County High School. I've been enrolled in the welding program for the past 3 years. The internship program has allowed me to further my education in my chosen profession and, again, much needed experience. I'm proud to say that I have obtained a position as a welder and fitter at Banker Steel. I would like to thank Mrs. Booth, my career internship instructor, and my welding instructor, Mr. Larry Johnston, who made this opportunity possible. Without their leadership and guidance, I may not have made it to where I am today. And so I'm hearing good things from Bolden about his career job that he has with them now as part of this program, and he is hopeful that it will lead into a full-time job after he graduates in June. Our next career internship student that I invited was actually our only junior that's in the program this year, and she's probably a familiar face to you, but Gracie Stinson. She is working with Mr. Cargill in the technology department here with Amherst County Public Schools. And her supervisor says that Gracie has been an outstanding career intern who will impress any future employer. And it's to my understanding that Gracie has aspirations of actually working in this field after high school, and I think she is well on her way. So I'd like to invite Gracie up to the podium to just say a few words.
Hello, and thank you for having me here. I would love to tell you everything that I've been able to learn from Mr. Cargill, but I think y'all want to go home sometime tonight. But as far as the highlights, I've been able to have more experience when it comes to learning the setting up and breaking down of all the different filming projects that we do. Some of the things that we film or record are the choral group presentations for different highlighting videos, as well as we do live streaming for things like the Christmas parade for graduations, whether it is for the Amherst County ourselves or for other different school divisions as far as Nelson County. We also do sporting events, and this year I've been involved in doing basketball, football, and volleyball. Also, we do the school board meetings here as well as far as live streaming those so everyone can watch. This has become more of a necessity this year, especially during COVID, because a lot of the rules with the VHSL have prohibited or limited the amount of viewers that are allowed to come to spectate the games. As far as my individual projects that I've been able to be involved in at my actual time at the school board office has been building different websites, and that is something that has transferred over from what I learned from the CTE class that Mr. Cargill taught me last year in my sophomore year. These websites have included things as far as resources for students, showcasing what I've been able to create in his class and under his supervision, as well as showcasing other students' projects like the PBL site that is going to be going live in mid-May. And also we are working on training websites for teachers. With this, I've been able to learn different aspects of graphic design, which are things that transfers to where I can make banners and thumbnails. That way everything we're using is student created. As far as what I've enjoyed from this is being able to witness Mr. Cargill living out what he constantly says about organization is 95% of your success. He demonstrates that from the constant use of spreadsheets, and we always label everything so there's no question about what goes where. Additionally, being able to teach other students how to do things and how things are supposed to be set up when it comes to streaming, that has probably been one of my favorite parts. I'm extremely thankful for the opportunity that I've had to be able to work for Mr. Cargill, and I would like to thank him as well as the administration and everyone at the central office that has allowed me this opportunity.
And last but not least, I have one more student, and this is CJ Rose. And CJ Rose is currently working at Food Lion here in Amherst, and his supervisor says CJ is a great asset to our team here at Food Lion. He is very dependable, a quick learner, and always follows through on whatever task he is given. So now I'd like to invite CJ Rose up to the podium.
Good afternoon. Hope everybody's doing well. A little nervous, but overall, I just would love to share with you guys my experience through this internship program. Overall, it's been a journey, of course, through COVID. I'm gonna piggyback on everybody. It's been rough, but overall, just having the opportunity to learn these workplace skills, have the opportunity and put myself in a position as a young 18-year-old man to just basically understand the core values of survival, just in the workforce. being able to, learn certain traits as dependability, being accountable, being responsible. I feel like all of those things are part of being an adult and part of growing up. And overall, just Miss Booth, she's been extremely flexible and patient with me. Overall, just being there for me, especially with my crazy schedule with football, of course, that just have ended for me. But it's been a journey. I've been really excited. Food Line, they have also been very, very flexible with me. And overall, just my bosses, they're great. And this program I really appreciate you guys for setting this and taking ahead on, especially with COVID. And just as Dr. Brown extremely reiterates to us every day we're at school, by not being on airplane mode, just being able to show up to school, have a long day here and then go to work. Overall, that's life. Some things you have to do, especially school, of course. But and leaving second period is also great. But above that, overall, just the work experience and just the ethical core values of responsibility and growing up as a young man, I really enjoyed the ride. And it's more to come. I'm extremely motivated. I'm extremely thankful. And yes, ma'am. That's it. Thank you, Ms. Booth.
And again, thank you all for inviting us here today to hear more about our internship program. And as we continue to grow this and as we continue to be able to offer more selections to them. And thank you to our students that were here today and even those who couldn't be here but gave us words. But thank you, CJ and Gracie. You did a good job. And so let me ask you before I leave, do you have any questions for me?
Board members, do you have any questions for Ms. Booth?
I don't have any questions, but I would like to say that I highly commend the internship programs. I know my kids have participated through other programs, but the skills that they learn in those are incredible. They also sometimes learn that that's not what they want to do for the rest of their lives. So it's a valuable piece to know that they don't go off to college and learn something that they're not going to do. So keep up the good work. That's an awesome program.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. First, I want to say thank you. I loved hearing from the students and all of the examples. It's very exciting. And I look forward to you being able to expand that. So beyond getting rid of COVID, what do you need to do? What do you need in order to expand your program?
I think just continuing making contacts with local employers. Again, this is my first year here, and I made several contacts, and sometimes I'll even get a call at the high school from a local employer asking a few questions or letting us know that they have a job opening. And so we've been able to share that with students as those have come up for them to be able to apply to that. So just continuing to make contacts, letting those who are looking for workers that we have an internship program here available that we would love to see if we have a good fit for them. And just making early contacts with students to see what they're interested in and being able to find them placements for that.
And Ms. Thompson, if I might, one of the natural expansions of the CTE Regional Academy will allow for our students that go to that program. That's going to be an element of that program as well. And so our students will not be confined to just Amherst-based opportunities. And so it will also expand their opportunities by doing that. And you guys have already supported students to go to that in the following year. So,
Thank you.
One more question. Did you find that you had more students than opportunities or opportunities than students?
It really varied, and it kind of varied with the timing of it as well.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the year, in the fall, we had couple of students interested, 2 or 3 students interested in physical therapy and veterinary science, but definitely at the beginning, no one was taking any type of medical type of internship, even with veterinarian sciences as well, not taking the internships there. So we got a little creative with that. And then I've had a couple of other opportunities that came through kind of like middle way through a semester. And then checking with the students who I thought may be interested, maybe we could make a change to that. It really didn't kind of fit what they wanted to do at that point. So I think just a couple of both in that aspect.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Any other direct questions? No? Well, once again, I'd like to echo what everyone else has said. We just thank you so much for this great presentation tonight, and we thank those who were able to come and those letters that were written on their behalf. And I was excited to see in one of your objectives, life skills. I meet employees who say that not just here at Amherst County High School, but they find that young people are coming into the job market with no soft or life skills. So I'm glad to see that you had already instilled that. So if no further questions, we thank you so much for the presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to move into our public, I feel like am I being heard?
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to move into our public comment section. I do have one name on the list here, Mrs. Irene Dean. If you would come to the mic, please.
Madam Chairman, can you
Barely can hear you.
barely hear me?
There you
That's
go.
much better.
Okay. Madam Chair, school board members, my name is Irene Dean, and I live in Monroe, Virginia. And I have 3 grandchildren in Amherst County High Schools. I'm here tonight to speak out about the equity classes introduced into our schools for the first time this year. I know those classes have already been presented, but I did want to take an opportunity to thank the school board for their efforts to be cautious about the classes. They're filled with sensitive teaching material and could harm our children's self-esteem. And I do hope that you will continue to require scrutiny when it comes to these classes. The classes came about because of politics, pure and simple. And politics have no place in our classrooms, not when they teach an ideology of pitting races against each other. The very name of these classes is deceptive. The way they were introduced into our schoolrooms was deceptive. So I ask you to ponder this question. How does teaching young children they have always been victims and oppressed actually provide equity? How does teaching another race of children they have always been oppressors provide equity? These are just concepts floating in the ethers. It's old energy regurgitated, and it does not serve a place in the minds of our young children. When you provide handicap ramps to get into schools, you provide equity. When you supply tutors for those who are behind, serve lunches for those who may not otherwise eat, supply school buses so all children can attend, or when you supply qualified teachers, you provide equity. These things are an investment in your school children so that a positive return can be measured. Last month, our educators highlighted the VTSS training, a program that supports students being respectful, showing responsibility, and being resilient. How does it make sense then to turn around the next week and teach those same children that the child sitting next to them is inherently biased or racist because of their skin color? It just doesn't make sense. These equity lessons are a way to soft sell critical race theory into the classrooms and the minds of our young children. It's a theory where race is everything. If you wanted to invent an ideology that actually creates racism, you could do no better than the critical race theory. Each and every child is a child of God and deserves encouragement, not discouragement. As adults, let's not pit them against each other in the name of equity. It'll be to no one's benefit. Great communities are made by good people doing things together. And my hope is that all parents of Amherst County will become educated on these classes and stand up and say no more. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the school board tonight? If not, we will close the public comment section. We're moving on to our action items, 4.01 and 4.02 on the consent agenda. If the board has reviewed those, we'll ask for motion of approval.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So on the personnel report,
We would have to pull that if you have a question. Am I right? Or,
Yes, we can do that.
the head JV girls soccer, is there supposed to be a name there?
Yeah, there's no name on there.
It said approval of the following coaching assignments, and 3 are listed, 1 doesn't have a name.
So I think we can approve the names that are there, and then Mr. Gallagher and the HR department will make sure that that's
Sure.
given back to you.
And I'd have to look at that, because it may be just that there's not someone to propose for that position, but the title was left in. I don't know that, but I'll certainly check and verify
okay,
why that's vacant.
thank you for that. Ms. Wright. I think I saw it, but I just thought it was misprint. With that thought in mind, for those names that we do have on the personnel report and for the minutes, if there are no other questions, can we get a vote of approval? A motion to approve.
Procedurally, though, should we not amend that or separate the two? Because you don't have a name there, so
Right.
you're just approving, or is that?
Well,
I'm just suggesting that it should be seen as nothing is
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
And then we'll
Bring
bring
it
to
back.
you if there is a name in the separate, yeah.
Okay.
That's why the motion would be to approve the names that we do have,
Okay.
and with that amendment, to bring that back. Is that okay?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Been properly moved in second to approve the consent agenda with the amendments. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? If not, the ayes carried. We're moving on to section 5, administrative services. Is that Dr. Wells?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board, we'll start with administrative services, and first is the painting at the high school. And we can report that the painting is supposed to be completed by the end of next week. We're finished most of the school except for the upstairs classrooms on this end of the building, the health wing. And then I have to go through the punch list and double check everything on that. But they've been able to make good time on that and finish really way ahead of schedule compared to what we anticipated. But we're anticipating that being completed next week. Any questions? Okay. Tree removal at Amherst Middle School. If you've driven by Amherst Middle School, you've noticed some of the big trees along the edge of the road were cut down. That's due to the power line that runs through there, and AEP said they needed to come down, so those trees were removed. We also had 2 other trees that were kind of nuisance trees along the tennis court and one around the back of the school that we felt needed to come down as well. So those trees have been removed. The wood is being removed off the property. They had a equipment breakdown this week with one of our tractors, so we couldn't get it moved, but we're in the process of moving that, I guess the trunks of the trees, so to speak. And then the company that removed them is going to come back in and replant some trees that are smaller in stature that won't grow into the power lines. So you'll see some more trees being replanted, but we had to get those trees down because of they were encroaching on the power lines, and also they were really encroaching on the building as well, so it was really good to get them down. Construction at Masson Heights Elementary and Amherst Middle School, the projects for this summer. The engineers are completing their studies. They've been into schools over the past 3 weeks, and they're completing their studies, and they'll put things out for bid for that and get those work started. We're still on track to be completed this summer. The Head Start mobile units, we have Head Start mobile units at Central Elementary and at Elon. And again, from a spatial aspect, those are owned by Head Start, but those programs aren't being utilized. Those trails aren't being utilized, so and Mr. Neighbors, you can speak to this if you'd like, but we're in negotiations with the people that Head Start was renting the trailers from to see if we can possibly purchase those trailers for use at the school level. We need to go through next week and do a walkthrough to see if we feel the price is a fair price, what they're asking us to pay. But it would open up some more space at those two schools for possible use for classroom space and student usage. And Josh, I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not. Okay. Any questions regarding the possible purchasing of the Head Start units at those locations? Okay. And final thing on this part of what's on the list was the Trout in the Classroom project. As you know, we do the Trout in the Classroom project every year. And so far this year, in Elsa Middle School, we have approved field trips. So we did have some field trips this year. So I approved field trips for the students, some students to go up onto Peddler River and release the trout and do some water quality work and things like that in the process. So you had Elsa Middle School went March 26th. The high school sent students up on March 30th. Temperance Elementary, the third grade, went on the 13th, as well as 2 students from Madison Heights. Amherst Elementary School went yesterday, and we sent their third grade up. And then Amherst Middle School will conduct their trips on the 21st and 22nd of April. And so again, the students will go up there, release the trout, and they also do some water quality work, macroinvertebrate searches, where they identify the insects in the water to determine water quality. So it's a good hands-on experience for the students. The elementary kids were more just identifying what the insects were. When you get to the secondary level of the middle school, they do more science involved with it, more than just identifying the insects. But it's a good project for them to get involved with. Any questions regarding administrative services? Okay.
Good field trip there.
It's a good activity. I think the kids really had fun. I get to go with both elementary groups, and I'll go up next week with the middle school group, and the kids really enjoyed it. I enjoy working with them in it, so it's a fun day. COVID update. Right now, as of tonight, we have 1 positive staff member and 1 staff member on quarantine, and we have 8 positive students and 32 students on quarantine. So we've seen an uptick in our numbers in the past couple weeks. And this uptick is representative of what's in the region. We were notified that Central Virginia Health District had 82 cases, new cases reported on Sunday, and 78 cases reported on Tuesday. So in the region, the cases are increasing a little bit more again, and we should anticipate that happening with our schools. But again, when our teachers that have been vaccinated, they did not have to quarantine because they were fully vaccinated, unless they start displaying symptoms. So we are able to do that, but we are seeing a little bit increase in numbers again. Last time we spoke, our numbers we really hadn't had many cases at all, but as you know, we're starting to see that increase a little bit. And we kind of anticipated this, especially after a break, as families and people travel and maybe spend some more time together. So that's where we are right now, but hopefully this will be kind of where we level off, but we'll see what the future brings on that in the near future. Next information I have under COVID-19 is graduation. So this is something that everybody's been asking about a lot about here lately. Due to the governor's restrictions on sizes, the Vine Center, we're maxed at 500 inside the Vine Center. Lancer Stadium, we can only do 30% capacity, which didn't give us enough room in the stadium to really hold a crowd there, because you have to include your graduates in those numbers as well. So we we started contacting Liberty again for the possibility use of Williams Stadium. And so right now they've agreed for us to have graduation on May 28th at 7 p.m. at Williams Stadium, which will allow us up to 5,000 people could come. I think Dr. Brown's working on the total number each guest can bring. I think it's like 10 guests per graduate, I think is where he's leaning right now. But we'll allow guests to come to graduation. We'll have to spread out 10 feet, between family members and things of that nature. And we'll still work the logistics of that with Liberty University. But May 28th, 7 p.m. in the football stadium, Williams Stadium at Liberty University, is the date we've been given from them. And the other school districts in the area are using the same site, so most of the school systems in Central Virginia are using that same location. But it does open us up to where you can, since it's an outdoor venue, we can have a full graduation as opposed to restricting it to 1 or 2 guests per graduate.
And really, realistically, the only 2 venues in Central Virginia were Williams Stadium and City Stadium. But City Stadium, they have an agreement with the baseball facility and the Hillcats, and when they have games going on, you can't use City Stadium. And so any of those graduation weekends, the baseball facility was being used. So we really ended up with this one option, which will allow our students to invite family and friends, which is ultimately what we wanted to begin with.
From an inclement weather standpoint, would their indoor facility adjacent to it be available, or?
It's maxed. The max we can put inside is 500 people, regardless of the size of the facility. So that's why we opted for the outdoor facility.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If there were inclement weather, we could go in. You could pause and move people out of the stadium. But other than that, that's kind of the best we have given the situation.
Thank you.
And they do have the big screen TV there in the stadium. It's a nice venue.
Box seating.
Box seating, yeah. So, it's a good venue. The only issue would be if you have weather. And then, late May, early June in Virginia, you never know what kind of weather you're going to end up getting. But hopefully we'll have a nice, calm, quiet, sunny afternoon and evening, and we can get this, we can have graduation and move on and kind of give the graduates a good graduation.
I think it's great, we don't have to limit, so to speak. That's the big thing, like you said. So last year we were a little concerned about weather, but it cooperated.
Yeah, it missed us by 2 miles, so we were good. So there'll be more logistics confirmation to come on that, and we'll work through those logistical issues and have a plan together for you at the next meeting. But just want to give you a heads up, that's where we are right now with graduation. Any other questions regarding graduation? Okay. The next thing I have is vaccinations. And tomorrow is a very large, busy day for us here. We're doing over 1,200 vaccinations tomorrow. So we're getting caught up on some of the ones we didn't do last week because of spring break. So we have 1,200 vaccinations for tomorrow. We do anticipate having a student vaccination day on April 30th. That's for people that are 16 and over. We can use Pfizer for that. Pfizer has been approved for 16-year-olds and up. They will be with parental permission. So April 30th, and there'll be information going out to the students on this next week and families. But April 30th, the health department and our BRIMS, Blue Ridge Regional, has agreed to supply us with the vaccine to do this on the 30th for students. We're looking at around 276 doses at front. And then if more people want that, we can do another clinic the following week to get more students involved. We don't have any word on anybody younger than 16 because none of the vaccines have been approved for anyone under 16 right now. I know Pfizer has requested emergency approval from 12 to 16-year-olds to receive the vaccine, but that has not been approved. If it is approved, we'll work with Blue Ridge Regional and VDH to set up something for that, but right now we don't have anything along those lines. Moving forward, the vaccination clinics, we anticipate having clinics through June 4th if needed. After June 4th, we will shut down our site here because we're losing our staff for the summer, so we won't have the nurses and things on that we can just call in. So we will lose half of our staff, so we really won't be running any more clinics after June 4th. And again, that's if needed. If the community need is not there, then we'll shut it down earlier, but we anticipate going through June 4th with vaccinations.
Dr. Wells, I think we need to point out with the student vaccinations, it's voluntary, and of course it will require a parent's signature if they want it. So, it's not a mandatory thing. It's just making it available because that's been a big push in the area to get more people vaccinated.
So we're offering it. We have approximately 650 16-plus-year-old students in the school division. So we'll see if they want it, we'll provide it to them. If they don't, that's fine, but we will offer that to them if so desired. But the VDH does require a parental permission form to be turned in with an underage individual, so we'll have that on record at the Emergency Services Office. Any other questions regarding vaccines or the vaccination effort?
I think it's wonderful. We've said that before, this great community effort this great community service that you all have provided has not gone unappreciated by the citizens of Amherst. I hear people talking about it all the time. Now, since we are live and people are listening, one more time about the 16-year-old needing permission, just in case someone is not getting the whole story out there. Would you say that just one more time for the media?
So the 16-year-olds will need parental permission to get the vaccine. It is not required. It is an option. They can have it. We'll send permission forms home with students, and we'll also have it online for people to pull. There'll be a VDH form and a permission form going home, as well as a letter going home to students. And if the parents wish to get that done, then they can fill the form out, and we'll have it open on the 30th, starting at from 9 to 12 is our time frame right now on April 30th. There'll be more information being posted on that next week.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions on that from the board? Okay, Dr. Wells, continue on.
And then the last thing I have will be student suspension reports. So if there are any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them. All right. Thank you very much.
Board members? No? Thank you so much. We're moving into our finance. Ms. Crouch.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, you have at your place the budget monitoring reports, the revenue receipts, the object code for the month through the month of March 2021. You will notice in the memo that I put at your place there are a couple of overages, and one of them is the 8105, which is where we have put in the purchase order to purchase the 4 buses. That category right now is over approximately $38,000. But when we get the $80,000 back from the bus grant, then that money will be applied to that overage. We are still looking good as far as all of our numbers, and I will be glad to answer any questions. You will also notice that I removed the enrollment report from board docs today. Late this afternoon, it was discovered that some of the numbers didn't quite make sense. So before we provide you that information, we'd like to get more data. And then that information will be provided before the next board meeting. We'll send it in an email with an explanation. I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
Questions for Ms. Crouch?
Ms. Crouch, did you say we did get the school bus grant, or we were hoping to get it?
We did get
it.
the,
Okay.
we did, at the last board meeting,
Okay.
it was pending. Since then, we have received notification.
Gotcha, thank you.
That's good news.
And it's $20,000 per bus, so it equates to $80,000.
Great, thank you.
Anything else for Ms. Crouch? She said the magic number. She said our numbers are looking good. So, that's what I'd like to hear. Moving right along to instruction. Dr. Norman, is that you? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. Several items tonight. At your place, you have in your packet 2 items that you had requested earlier. First is just information, 2 of the flyers on the pre-K program and kindergarten registration. The flyers were sent out to all students within the division, and they've been placed at businesses throughout our community just to make sure that we get those pre-K students enrolled. You also were given information on that, just a memo that starts out just kind of telling you the mitigation strategies and the things that we've had to put in place based on COVID-19 and moving forward. Please feel free to read those at your leisure and to pass on that information for those students and families in our community for our early childhood programs. The second item that you had requested was information on how many students had already met the 2-point gain or increase that we wanted to see in regards to our MAP assessments. So you have a chart that's been completed by grade level. Overall, we saw by grade level, our reading, we are still working towards moving in the directions for 100% of our students to gain that 2-point increase. But at the very end of the document, that chart, you can see that currently right now we have 56% of the students who took the test have already met the benchmark of increasing 2 points from the fall assessment to the one that they took mid-year. And 66% of the students who took that test already met that benchmark of the 2-point gain in the area of math. So we do have things that we're working on with our teachers and our students to make sure that we get the 100% of our students throughout the course of the remainder of the school year to meet those benchmarks at the end of the year by a 2-point gain. And feel free to drop me an email or ask any questions that you have in regards to those numbers. The next item on the agenda is regarding the remote student progress test. So there are new regulations that came out from the state regarding the requirement of the Virginia Department of Education to meet ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, under the federal guidelines. And we are required to test certain grade levels, certain content area in students within the division. The state must meet those requirements, and the United States Department of Education has provided the states with waivers. We will be utilizing those waivers as we did last year on several incidents, but due to COVID, we still have parents across the state, not just in Amherst, who are not wanting to bring their child into the building to either have face-to-face instruction, and they've chosen ARA or 100% remote, and those students are still required by the federal government and the state to take an assessment in the areas of reading and math. So Virginia Department of Education created the new test that is now being given that is called the Virginia Remote Student Progress Test for reading and math for grades 3 through 8, not any that are end of course assessments. So anything that is an 8th grade like Algebra 1 or World History or anything like that, that is an end of course test, doesn't get tested under these guidelines. The Amherst will be providing that. We are following the state guidance on that, and we'll be providing that to any ARA 100% remote student, are those that meet the criteria. And if they choose not to come in to take their SOL test in the areas of reading and math, then they would take it remotely. I have put in the a memo in your packet that gives you a brief, as much information as I've been given so far by the state, but it also has a link in there to the DOE website that gives information that they're providing to parents, teachers, students, community members. So feel free to review that. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer those. And hopefully, very soon I can send more information out by email in regards to what that actually looks like for our students. But that is brand new. We just received the information 2 weeks ago that this would happen. And we're trying to get that out as quickly as possible to our students and our parents with our ARA program. Any questions in regards to that? I'll be more than happy to. Okay, the next item on the in my portion is regarding an update on a regulation information. There is a letter in your packet that will go out to seniors and families. Actually, I believe it goes out tomorrow. Based on recommendations from our grading committee, led by Mr. Craig Maddox and Dr. Holly Jennings, the regulation IKC, which clarifies specific areas in regards to our grading, we have proposed to Dr. Arnold, who handles the regulations for the division, to update it to allow for the calculation of grades for all seniors that impacts their GPA and class ranking to be their final grade. So previously in that regulation, it stated that grade calculations for GPA and class ranking would be completed at the end of the third 9 weeks. In order to make sure that all students in our programs that we don't even have any oversight in regards to their calendar, like GovSchool, early college, STEM, who finish earlier than we do, and we get their grades, and then our students go a little bit longer. We have gone to where all of our students will have completed their full course load and have their final grades in order for calculations for their GPA class ranking. We still kept in the regulation, just for logistic purposes, the Golden A Trophy will still be calculated for those that participate in that for the end of the third 9 weeks. But we wanted to notify our grading period for the end of the third 9 weeks actually closes tomorrow. So we wanted to make sure that seniors and parents and families knew the information that extends, so their calculations continue on into the fourth 9 weeks to give those students any opportunity to increase their scores, raise their grade, and continue on with their coursework. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions in regards to that. Okay. The next item that we have is in regards to a request that we had for you, from you in regards to synchronous learning for ARA, as well as our students across the division who handle remote learning. I've asked Ms. Wanda Smith, who's been an integral part of our ARA program, as well as our Canvas program, Virtual Virginia, and our remote learning, to kind of give you a brief 2 or 3 minutes in regards to what that data looks like for our students this year.
Good evening. As you will see on the presentation, we're going to slide right into it. This is going to highlight primarily the synchronous offerings that we did during the fall and how it has transitioned from fall to the current third 9 weeks grading period. Only the synchronous time will be addressed because asynchronous gets a little tricky based on the factors that you see on the screen, and that it's very individualized with schedule, the amount of subjects, the amount of students that each teacher covers. So we want to focus primarily on where it can be kind of equal and fair with just the synchronous time. What is synchronous? Synchronous is anything that's done in real time, in which students and teachers are involved in conversations, two-way conversations. Attendance is also involved and taken during this time, and it's handled over a Google Meet session. The next 3 slides are going to focus on what synchronous looked like in the fall 2020 and what it has transitioned to into the January 2021. And you want to see more of the color area than you do the gray area. The gray area represents office hours primarily, and the color area represents planned lessons, meaning a direct instruction coming from the teacher giving in real time to the student. Office hours tend to be more Q&A, where parents and students can just pop in and ask questions. And while it is very important to have that time, it does allow for individualized instruction based on whatever the parent or the student are popping in the meeting and asking about. So this is what it looks like at the elementary level for hybrid. These are for students that do come face-to-face. This is what it represents for Amherst Middle School and Manellison Middle School. And again, this is for students who do come face-to-face, so they have 2 days in class, 3 days remote. And this is what it looks like for Amherst County High School and Amherst Education Center. And you can see that in all aspects, we are over 30%, over 50% of, with having more time being given to direct instruction synchronously than we are with just holding office hours. What our next steps were, we have had training with the middle schools, we've had conversations with the principals about what it needs to look like for synchronous, and Virtual Virginia has been very supportive in offering what asynchronous and synchronous teaching can look like to build up the capacity of our teachers. They have 2 more sessions that will be offered later this month and also in the month of May, and our goal is for all teachers in the hybrid setting to offer synchronous learning time to their students. We're not quite there yet because, again, their schedules are so individualized, but we're growing every week. For our ARA, it's very much different because they have more time to be able to have flexibility in their schedule. But in the beginning of the year, the state only required that we have meaningful interaction at least once a week. So in the beginning of the year, there was no synchronous instruction, but that was something that ACPS knew we wanted to grow on. So this is the growth that we've had so far with the ARA. They still hold a lot of office hours, but the students actually prefer some of that time because they get to have one-on-one time with their teacher and they don't have to compete with class members for their time of instruction. It also gives a sense of security for students because sometimes they're apprehensive about participating if they're in a group with their peers, but they feel more secure and more apt and have less anxiety if it's just them and their instructor talking about whatever their struggles are with the content. This is what it is at the elementary level and at the secondary level. And in each of these, we've seen big gains, and it's growing each week. And Mrs. Cruz and Mr. Crawford are very much connected with the teachers in making this a possibility of growing even more. Next steps, they've had the same training and same opportunities. Principals have had the same conversations as the hybrid principals and teachers. And our goal now is by May 2021, daily synchronous instruction will be provided by all AAR teachers. That is where we're moving to, and by May we will have that achieved. And that is it. Do you have any questions?
That's great.
Ms. Smith, thank you for that. As far, other than internet, what are you seeing are the biggest barriers for implementing the synchronous piece? Is it?
It's coordinating time. What works for a teacher to offer it sometimes doesn't always work for the families, but we do have teachers that are willing to offer hours after 4 o'clock. When I looked at a lot of the schedules, some of them are meeting with students at 6 o'clock in the evening or 7 o'clock in the evening. They're trying to make it work for whatever time is feasible for the students, and not only them, but their parents' schedule.
Sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions on synchronous learning from the board? Thank you so much, Ms. Smith. Dr. Norman?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Dr. Norman has asked me to share the last point in regards to our summer programming.
Okay.
So what you have in front of you is a memo with an overview of what we've established thus far in regards to dates, overall context, and objectives for our programming. I'm going to be highlighting certain points in that. Certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have. What we're looking at for our summer programming, we wanted to make sure that we accounted for two pieces. First and foremost, access to instruction, but also options for students. We wanted to still be flexible. We still wanted to meet families and students where they are and ensure that we're providing as much opportunity as possible to participate in instruction over the summer. We are looking to divide our program into 2 sessions, is what I've been calling that. We are going to start right after the school year ends on June 14th with in-person sessions at both the elementary and secondary level. We're going to run that elementary through July 9th. Secondary ends a week earlier on July 2nd. That's the nature of the program at the elementary level that I'll talk about here in just a moment. We are very pleased. We've partnered with Harvest Outreach, who's currently providing our therapeutic day treatment in our schools. They're actually going to be embedding their staff into our programming. This year is the first time we've had that. It really gives us a lot of that key support that we need with certain students within our programs, provide that therapeutic day treatment within that context. We're very, very excited about that partnership. We're also excited to say that we're continuing our partnership with the YMCA for the Power Scholars program at the elementary level. We've had a tremendous amount of success with that, seen some great gains with our students, and they are partnering with us again this summer. I will say there's been a lot of effort on their part to find funds and work with us on what that part looks like, and kudos to them for being creative and being able to work with us again with that. As you'll see there, we do have the dates established, the times and schedules for each of those programs. I wanted to thank our social media team for putting out some great graphics on that for our families to see the differences in those programs as well as locations, but we did want to provide that information for you. I do want to highlight the secondary level in addition to what we've done in the past in regards to our bridge math programs as well as SOL remediation and credit recovery. We are offering remediation this year. We are offering a program that has a strong foundation in reading and math, and also some extension and enrichment activities to really have them apply those skills that they're learning during the academic components of those days. For our second session, so looking beyond July 4th week, July 12th through the end of July and 30th, we're going to be offering virtual support, virtual programming with a strong synchronous component. It actually gives us an opportunity to utilize some new technology, and Mr. Cargill is actually using one of the devices that we're going to be piloting during that summer school program this year, but really giving that opportunity for teachers to use some of that technology, see what synchronous instruction can really look like in a very different way, and hopefully go along with supporting what Ms. Smith was talking about just a few minutes ago. What I wanted to highlight again with our second page there of the memo that you guys have, the curriculum. The YMCA has a wonderful curriculum that they utilize through Power Scholars, Linda Mood Bell, a lot of success with that. Very data oriented. We got a lot of good information that our teachers are able to utilize going to the next school year. For our secondary programming, there's a lot that's already been developed with our Canvas platforms, Virtual Virginia, to be able to access some remedial components of that, but we're going to have teams of teachers. We already have teams of teachers that are working on how we expand that, extend it, continue to add to our efforts to provide that remediation over the summer. I've already mentioned several of our community partners. In addition, Second Stage, Step Forward, they'll also be helping us with some of those extension and enrichment components of our summer school programming. Very excited for them to bring some components of the community in to work with students and give them some ideas about what that arts component looks like in the context of how reading and math might influence careers in those areas. The final piece I wanted to share with you in regards to mitigation considerations, with some of the new guidance we have from the CDC, as well as some of the research that's come down, we are moving to some slight tweaks to our current mitigation measures. Obviously, we've had a lot of success with those, so we don't want to go away from those to a significant degree, but we are going to be able to move to a 3-foot distancing during our summer programming. We're also going to be able to have a little more flexibility with our transportation and have 2 students per seat, which we're hoping will allow us to bring more students in to these summer programs and have more space for them to be able to operate. All right, I know we'll have to do that relatively quickly, but I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, and you may have addressed this. I noticed the time on the first session for elementary was 8 to 4. Is that allowing 2 different groups of students?
Yes, ma'am, the elementary and secondary, and historically that's been the time frame for Power Scholars as well.
Right, okay, thank you.
Any other questions on? So for the audience listening on Facebook, clarification, I think I understand it. Who can attend summer school?
Yes,
Bottom
ma'am.
line.
I appreciate you asking the question. So the simple answer is everyone. And we want as many students as possible to participate. With Power Scholars, traditionally we've had a more restrictive criteria that we had access there. We've been very gracious in opening that criteria this year, so we have more students that will be able to participate. We have released a virtual registration for parents to be, or families to be able to access that. Schools are also going to be calling over the next several weeks to ensure that we're getting as many students as possible into these programs.
That's just, just get that out there. So sometimes we think that summer school is what it is. We're looking at remediation and general, the program the Y has always offered.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, as far as us as a school system, with the remediation, teachers are referring young people that they feel need some extra help to carry them over to be prepared for the next grade.
Yes, ma'am. Teacher recommendation is always a strong
Parents will
consideration.
receive that type of information.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? I just need to clarify that because everyone says who can go with it. Well, with the situation the way it has been, and some areas are continuing school in the summer, we want to be careful that we're talking about summer school, remediation, and Power Scholars. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
There we go. Thank you so much for that. Any other questions for Dr. Norman's group? If not, we're moving into yes, sir. HR.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. You have before you a memo. I think it's the final memo in the packet, and that just outlines our current vacancy positions in both professional and classified. So just wanted you to see that and have that in front of you. There's a number of positions there. We are actively interviewing. This is a very, very busy interview time. So we are encouraging everybody who has positions open to be involved in that process. Right now, we've been doing that for the last week, and moving into next week, it's nearly daily. So we have excellent candidates in the pool thus far that we've been interviewing. As a matter of fact, we had great interviews today, and by tomorrow, it's very likely we'll have only one position vacant left in the elementary K-5. So excellent folks in that pool, and just want you to be aware of what those are as we go forward. Any questions that you may have regarding those vacancies? Yes, ma'am.
So we have about 17 open teaching type positions, it looks like from this report.
Correct. Well, that's correct.
And you're already interviewing for that? For some of those positions?
We're
you said?
interviewing for all those positions currently.
All of those. So help me understand, when you're reaching out to colleges about our open positions, how do you determine what colleges and where to reach out to?
We put our information out broadly across Virginia. So it's any university that has a teacher prep program that's considered effective, we're reaching out to. We previously were, as you saw last year, going out to actively recruit in many of those colleges and universities, not just in Virginia, but then beyond our borders. It's been very restricted this past year. That's why some of those were taken off. But we look for excellent programs. We want to look for excellent candidates, and we also want to look for individuals that provide excellent candidates who are also representative of our population. And we reach out frequently. We participate in virtual career fairs is what we've done this past year, engaged in many of those. So when we're not able to actually go participate, we get engaged in what they're offering through their virtual programs and participating. Some have not offered a whole lot this year.
Right.
Some of those universities who may have been on our list to go visit last year. So sometimes it's limited.
So you answered my next question about
Sure.
representative of the population. Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
And so is there any kind of collaboration with any community organizations who maybe have a interest in the candidates or the type of hiring? Is there any collaboration with us?
Could you?
Any community-based organizations?
So I don't have an answer for that unless you want to expand on what specifically you might be, an example
And it probably
maybe.
isn't. So that's,
Yeah, I'm
that
sorry.
was my question.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Mr. Gallagher?
In that regard.
Yes,
Quick
ma'am.
one. I know we've talked about in the past exit surveys.
Yes.
And I know that you have said that you would know, I think they're called exit interviews.
That's
So do we
correct.
do interviews or surveys?
They're surveys.
They're surveys.
That's correct.
And you collect that data annually?
We do.
And I know for the teachers that are exiting this year, we won't get that data until summer.
Correct.
Do you have that data from previous years?
We do have that data from previous years. There was nothing in those previous years that was outstanding related to the current situation. In other words, with COVID or pandemic or any of those factors, they were relatively typical factors. And I believe it was my understanding we were looking for information from current that might tie into that, but I'm happy to provide previous year's data. It's pretty typical.
I understand.
Yeah.
Do you know about the percentage of teachers that reply to those?
As far as the percentage of individuals who reply, I think that I don't know. So if I say that, it's going to be an estimation, but I would say that it is probably a majority. So it would be over 50. I think we've had relatively strong response to exit surveys. People do want to give their thoughts and input and opinion. Sometimes you send out surveys that are, very low end on your return. They have been, in my opinion, strongly returned, but I don't have an absolute percentage. I can get that for you, though.
Sure. Well, that's good enough. So that makes
Sure.
me feel good to know that they are responsive to those. I look
feel like
forward
folks
to
have
those
been very
results this
responsive.
summer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's been very helpful. And there's a comment section so that not only do they just have to click buttons about what they feel, but they have opportunities to provide input. So,
Thank you.
Anything else from Mr. Gallagher?
so I have a few other items beyond that, but
Yeah, go ahead.
just as reminders, again, we do have the retiree recognition slated for May 27th. I know I've said that before at 6 o'clock. And we are actively working on that, and that's going to be a nice ceremony. We will do that in person. So we will have folks along with representatives that they choose from their families to be able to be present, to be recognized. And I just want to make sure that we keep that out in front of us. We are in the processes of beginning to identify and pull that together, that celebration, so that we can honor and recognize those folks. Second, National Teacher Appreciation Week is May 7th, May 3rd through 7th, I apologize. That's just informational for awareness. We do have recognition activities planned for that in the past. Board members have participated in that. So as I begin to let folks know what we're doing, I'll reach out to you through email or otherwise and let you know the details so that you can choose to participate if you wish to do so. And I appreciate that. And that's all I have.
Any other? No? I noticed we only need 2 bus drivers. Wonderful.
That's current, and that's correct, and we're happy about that, so.
Yeah, that's good news. I mean, I say that because usually we're putting banners all over the United States for bus drivers need.
It's always those last 2, you know.
It doesn't mean, don't misunderstand, don't mean that we still don't want people to apply.
Yeah.
But it's good to see just 2 right there.
Well, we have excellent folks, and we want to continue to bring more excellent candidates in.
Appreciate it. We're moving on now to 9.01. I think.
Student representative.
Student representative, yeah. Good evening to you all.
Good evening, board members, faculty, and parents. And for those of you who had spring break, I hope you enjoyed it. As we approach the finish line of the 2021 school year, we're now at the point where we're planning and executing senior traditions as the seniors have before us, with the added challenge of the pandemic as an additional hurdle that we must overcome. We're having the Golden A Awards, the NHS tassel ceremony, and the CNA graduation coming up. Recently, we were able to have homecoming court, which really boosted the students' morale. And the students who were nominated for homecoming were also able to attend the last home football game, which is a nice bonus.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. I apologize for my absence at the last meeting. I was given the opportunity to attend a volleyball game, and it's my first and only sporting event at the time, so I was really excited and pumped to do that. So we actually won that night, so it was all around good times. So first, several weeks back, Iron Lives hosted an event outside in the courtyard, cleaning the courtyard. In the span of 2 hours, we cleaned both courtyards, including doing things like removing weeds, clearing out brush, and even dealing with spiders. And we had quite a few people that did not like the insects and creepy crawlies, but we got through it, and it was a great time, just having a blast, just hanging out, but also doing a service for the school. Secondly, speaking of the courtyard, April 29th, Amherst Theater is going to have our first in-person improv night outside in the courtyard. This is the first one we're having all year, so we're really pumped to do that. And I know recently we have performed for you guys for improv, and you guys know it's always fun, so I definitely encourage you guys to come out to that. And then...
what time is it called?
It's going to be 7, yeah, 7 p.m., April 29th. I think Miss Emmert said to bring a chair, maybe like a lawn chair or whatever to get comfy, because it's gonna be fun. And then the weeks preceding spring break, we had a Spirit Week at the high school, and Spirit Weeks always boost morale at the high school or any school really. And we had days like Disney Day, Twin Day, Sweatpants and Hoodie Day, which was a favorite, and Jersey Day. And since our last week of spring break was April Fool's, we thought maybe we should, see him shaking his head over there, we thought we should prank maybe our fearless leader, Dr. Brown. Myself, along with Mr. Hamlet and Miss Terry, we successfully pranked Dr. Brown not once, but twice. If that wasn't enough, we had it live streamed across the entire school, so both days, both A Day and B Day students got to experience a prank of Dr. Brown. One was, we pranked him by filling his office with UVA memorabilia, and if you guys know anything about Dr. Brown, he does not like UVA anything. He's a tech alumni, and he was the priceless look on Dr. Brown's face when he opened his office to all the UVA stuff. It made it worth it, and I know all the students really loved it. And then on B-Day, we saran wrapped his car, and in the saran wrap was pictures of him in a UVA shirt. So it was all around a great time, and it was a great end to our break there, going into our spring break. And I think that that prank really just made everyone really happy at going into our spring break. So that's about all I have. Thank you, guys.
So I'd like to give some context to Mr. Davis in his going to a volleyball game. He, along with another young man with the last name of Arnold, figured out how to work the system where they could go to volleyball games and apply their strong volleyball knowledge to taking stats, but they maneuvered themselves quite adeptly into getting into volleyball games.
Yeah, so
while working for the school system.
Right. We were able to work the
Very proud.
scores table while also watching our girlfriends play. So it was a great time. Gave us a great opportunity.
Ingenious. Yeah. You're going to be a great leader one day. Thank y'all so much. Any board members have responses at this time to these young folks?
That was cruel and unusual for Dr. Brown. I sympathize with you. Go Hokies.
He hasn't talked to me in like 2 weeks.
I assured Mr. Davis that his diploma would still get signed.
Yes. Enjoy the fun. Dr. Arnold.
Yes, ma'am. I have a few things to report to you tonight. Dr. Wells did talk about COVID-19, but I will add some to that just for some context. In March, when we met last time, the county was at 18.9 cases per 100,000. 2 weeks ago, it had dropped all the way down to 8.1, which is as low as it had been since, I think, September. Unfortunately, that's gone back up a little bit. It's back up to 18.5. We hope that it is just a blip, but I want to make sure I take this opportunity with folks watching that we make sure we stay vigilant. You know, we've done a great job in this community with vaccinations, and it's led to a lot more confidence, community-wide, statewide, that things are getting better. But we want to make sure that we continue to remain vigilant, because one of the things is, just heard from these seniors, there are a lot of things we want them to be able to do in the next couple of months, and a lot of that unfortunately is contingent upon what numbers and what other outside entities could tell us we have to do. So I just want to encourage our community to continue to do the things that are necessary, to remain vigilant, to be careful. And so, because I really want for our seniors to be able to engage in those activities with their families, with their friends. And so I think we're in a place right now where we can do that. Just don't, I don't want that trend to keep going up. And so that's really what I'd like to say about about COVID, my COVID update. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 is listed, and it, in essence, is the next CARES Act. So the last CARES Act you heard about was a part of the budgeting process, where we talked about $3.6 million that was to be spent by the end of 2023. We have dedicated, I believe, 2/3 of that, as you saw in our budget presentation, to making sure we get through this upcoming year, making sure we meet all the requirements that we have, the extra staffing that is needed, and then we can use that money again in 2023. This amount of money, which has just come to us, is $7.1 million. And that is to be spent by 2024. And there, of course, are specific requirements on those monies. But I am here to say that I do not believe that money is going to be necessary for us to run school in terms of personnel, in terms of PPE, in terms of just the everyday, because we've shown already that we can run school. I believe that a lot of these school systems across the country have claimed that they can't get back into school because they don't have the appropriate resources to get back in school, and I think that's why this money is here. So what we will be allowed to use this money on is infrastructure projects that help with a post-COVID world. So some of the things that they would want you to look at are, how do we improve ventilation? How do we improve space for our students so they're not on top of each other? And so I tell you all of this because we did have a meeting. Mr. Greiser is on our CIP committee. Mr. Martin from the Board of Supervisors. We have a couple other folks on that. We did start to talk about our CIP and how that $7.1 million may be applied to a lot of the things that are on our CIP document. One, for example, and as fate may have it, the auditorium, dining area, commons, CTE, all of that has a price tag somewhere between $6 and $8 million, which is sounds about like $7 million to me. And so we need to, what our belief is that we think that that provides more open common space for our students to be able to be in without, especially in the cafeteria, especially in the auditorium, that it would actually meet those requirements. Now, we're going to have to do some work with the government to make sure that those are possibilities. But if that's not a possibility, there are other things on our CIP list that are certainly possibilities. One being the replacement of windows. They're on every school's list, and that's well over $2 million price tag in our CIP. So we feel like this is very fortunate for us that we can use this to meet some of the needs that we have identified, that CRA in their study identified as needs for our buildings. And so we feel very good about it. I can certainly answer as many questions as I can about it, but one of the things that we discussed last night with Mr. Greiser was that beyond this Rescue Plan Act money is what the Board of Supervisors, their role in funding as well. So we've started those conversations with them, and it was very positive, I believe. Mr. Greiser, you can add to
Taking my
that.
committee report, Dr. Arnold. I don't get them very often, so.
Okay, sorry. I'm going to stick with this. Anybody have any questions about the 7.1? And that goes to 2024. That's when we have to have it spent by.
Can that money be allocated, with our work with the county on broadband, or is it just strictly?
Yes, ma'am, it can.
Infrastructure?
No, it can be, it shares a lot of the same requirements that the other CARES Act monies have. The CARES Act money that we've spent so far has actually been to make sure we could get students back in school. But I think moving forward, we're going to have enough money in CARES Act over the next 2 years to take care of that. It's this 7.1 that I'm kind of specifically looking at as well.
And I know we have a couple of schools that we may need to look at some expansion at those schools as well.
Yeah, and that would be a space issue as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's good news.
Very good.
I think that's really good news. But we'll keep you informed. We'll keep you up to date. And as I believe we have another meeting next month, and so we'll have some more information to share. The third part is preliminary planning survey data and beginning of year plan. Okay, so what does that actually mean? That is, we put out a survey over the last month to our families, asking them what they would like to see happen next year, what they believe their students should be doing in the school year 21-22 school year. And so we have received, to this point, some data that suggests we've received feedback from 1,200 of our students out of roughly 3,900 students. So closing in on about a third of our population has responded. And so what we offered them 3 options: in person, all day, every day, 100% virtual, or homeschool. And so if you probably cannot see it very well, but the in-person option is a little over 87%. The virtual option is 12%, and that homeschool is less than 1%. So in our doing our math and doing our work with that, what that looks like if you extrapolate that out to all 3,900 of our students, and if those percentages stay the same, we're looking at about 450 students that might want the virtual option, which obviously you guys know that's a lot less than the 1,600 that we had this past year. And so this information from our survey, and we're going to continue to ask people to weigh in and give us information, and I'm hoping me providing some recommendations to you guys tonight will help some people know what we're intending to do so they can fill out this document. So I want to redirect you back to Senate Bill 1303, and this part of Senate Bill 1303 is the part that says the school board shall offer in-person learning to students, and all of that legal language means to meet the requirements that are currently in place for the time that you're supposed to be in school. So in essence, this means 5 days a week, all day long, for any student that wants to do that. It says down towards the bottom that we can do this in so much that we, at the greatest extent possible, meet the mitigation strategies that have been put forth by the Department of Health and the CDC. And so what the CDC has said to this point, they still are requiring masks, but they are allowing 6 feet down to 3 feet, which will allow us to get any amount of students back into the building that we need to get back into the building. We can use the greatest extent practicable portion of this to get enough students on buses to make that happen as well. So, yes, sir.
In a single run?
Yeah, in a single run. So this is all set up in a way that if every student in our division wants to come back in the building, they can do so every day, all day.
So in essence, would it be like turning to normal, meaning the same schedules, kids going back to normal wake-up times that they used to and coming home at the same times that they used to come home, not with their...
Kind of, sort of. Well, I'll go to that here in a second. That's I guess, up for some sort of debate, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
So the second part of this bill was talking about the virtual opportunity. And it was very clear to say that you may provide a virtual opportunity, okay? Doesn't mean you have to. It means if you do, you can provide criteria for doing virtual learning. And so it's not a shall statement, right? This past year, we had to provide a remote virtual option. This is not saying that. This is saying that you can if you want to. And so these two pieces of the bill, plus the data we're getting back from our community, has gotten me to a place where I think I can give you some general recommendations about what we want to do moving forward, okay? So what I'd like to show you here, and it's a little small, so I'll read it, but all students pre-K through 12 will be provided with in-person instruction 5 days a week. And I did put a time on there that corresponded with this year's times, Mr. Cassisi, that said elementary 8 to 3, secondary 9 to 4, because we did flip it this year, and part of doing that meets kind of the science behind how teens perform during the day, that they do better when they are moved further into the day. That data and those studies have been out there quite a while, but we made that switch. Now this is just a recommendation. We're certainly not in a decision-making place right now. Mitigation strategies will remain in place except for two things: moving social distance from 6 feet to 3 feet, and then allowing more students to 2 students per seat on a bus. Those are the two exceptions to our current mitigation strategy, which will allow us to get students into school to meet that, to meet the law that has been put in place. And I know a lot of people say, well, are they going to allow you to do some of these exceptions? Well, if the law is in place, then the mitigation strategies have to allow us to meet that law. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't think they can keep or go back to a 6-foot social distancing and then expect us to have students in school 5 days a week, all day. It's just virtually not possible.
Are we still having to submit a plan for the state to approve?
Yeah, we'll have to update it. We're trying to get some clarification on what that looks like, but I'm thinking that's going to be in June. So we'll still have some time there as well.
And when you say we're not in a decision-making point, but do we have enough of information to at least confirm to parents that we will be? Are you getting ready to get into that?
Well, that's why I'm doing this tonight.
Okay.
Because what I'm doing tonight is to signal to our community that we're going back to school 5 days a week,
Okay.
all day long.
Okay.
And so people can feel comfortable in planning for that moving forward. I think the next part is the part that I think there is some debate that can be had over this, is what virtual option or lack of virtual option that you choose to provide. And so what I'm recommending, and this is based on all of the information that we have right now, how our ARA functioned this year, and then what our options are. What I'm going to recommend is that we allow any student that would like to take on the virtual opportunities to be enrolled into Virtual Virginia. Virtual Virginia already has the capacity and the infrastructure in place, the staff, and the ability to provide synchronous every day, every class. They'll sit in front of a teacher every day to do that. When we look at doing something like ARA and standing that up to meet the needs that we all believe a virtual learner should have, would require a significant amount of resources in terms of our own staff, financial commitment to hiring more staff to be a part of an ARA specific facility, and you all know that there is a teacher shortage in America, and so if all of these school divisions are trying to stand up these remote academies, they're hiring new teachers, right? They're not, they're not able to what we found to be most difficult this year, and what all school divisions found to be most difficult, is trying to use the staff that you currently have and to separate them and to say, okay, you might have to teach a couple of periods here at school, and then you have to do some online work, and that is frustrating, number one, and it's very difficult to pull off. And so what I'm going to recommend to you guys is that we offer the Virtual Virginia option, which is pre-K through 12, and there is tuition associated with it. But if you remember back to the budget conversation, that's what that chunk of CARES Act money would go to, is paying tuition for those students. And what we would do, because it is an admission process, that there are certain criteria that students need to meet in order to, number one, be in the program, and two, to stay in the program. And there are things that we were not allowed to require this year. One being attendance, right? We had no accountability that we could bring to students just not showing up. You all know the frustrations we've had with that. But we can, now that it is a may statement, right? It says you may put criteria on this. And I would recommend that the criteria be reliable, high-speed internet. If you don't have that, you're not going to be successful in Virtual Virginia. That you attend regularly, we'll put a number on that for you, and that you engage in the online learning. And if you're unable to meet those criteria, one, you're not going to either get into the program, or two, you're going to be pulled out of the program and brought back to in-person learning. So those are the things I want to recommend that right now, so our community can say, okay, that's what I can expect moving forward. Now, there's probably going to be discussion about pieces of this, but I think from a general standpoint, I would not recommend to this body that we try to stand up an Amherst County specific remote academy. I just think that we're too small to divide our resources up like that, and I really think we did what we had to do this year. But if we want to move forward, I think this is the way to move forward.
And so in concept, if we pursued the Virtual Virginia piece, so that you can hear the sigh of relief from teachers all living in the county here, they wouldn't have to do their lesson plans in Canvas like they're doing this year, correct? Because Virtual Virginia would be our go-to for the virtual piece. Is that right, Dr. Norman?
Yes, sir.
It's just got a delay. It's just a delay.
Sorry. It is a virtual program, so they would not be required to do it in Canvas, but some of the things we don't want to, some of those good things we don't want to take away from the stuff that we've learned this year. So if a teacher's comfortable doing lessons in Canvas, we don't want to, prohibit that.
I know the concern I'd heard was that planning day. If we go to 5 days, you lose that planning day where a lot of that was done. So
so there's not going to be any of that. And what our hope really is with those kinds of things is that teachers can use it in a way to do things like flip their classrooms, to provide students with, when they go home to do homework, it looks different. It might be a lecture that they listen to, or it might be note-taking. So when they come into the classroom, instruction, activities, support can happen in the classroom. And we just think it would be a vehicle that we don't want to get rid of, but it's not going to be a requirement at all.
Those 450 that you have roughly right now, what's that cross-section look like as far as middle school, high school?
It's interestingly enough, it's the exact same divide that we currently have. It's about 67% secondary students, so 6 through 12, and about 33% at the elementary school.
And if for some reason a CTE program or something they want to participate in, they could do the Virtual Virginia, and then or that would be rules that we would set. I mean, would you have those scenarios? Would there be a program that wouldn't be offered through Virtual Virginia that?
Virtual Virginia does offer some CTE programs, but if they choose to go Virtual Virginia, the discussion has been with Virtual Virginia that it's their full-time Virtual Virginia, so they wouldn't come into our building unless we as a board decide that we would give them that opportunity.
Yeah, that would just be a decision we would have to work through, right? So what if I move and we'll keep the conversation going, but I just want to give you kind of our idea of how we want to lay this out. So if you see April 16th, that's tonight, or is it tonight? That's tomorrow. So tonight, we are going to present the recommendation, which we've done. Then for the remainder of this month and the first part of May, what I'd like to be able to do is to share those recommendations out on every platform that we have. I'm going to sit down tomorrow and do a podcast and talk about the exact same thing. So we get this information out in every way that we know how to get it out. Just in generalized fashion, this is what we intend to do. This is what we're asking our board to do. At the same time that this is happening, we will put this into a more formalized, specific document for you to have, kind of like a return to school plan like we did last year. It won't be nearly as expansive because if there's mitigation strategies, we've already planned through all of those things. So basically what we would do is give you more detail on the time, like what the schedules would be, what types of, whether we're looking at 7-period day versus block schedule, some of those things that changed this past year. What are we going to recommend to you guys that we keep? What are we going to recommend that we go back to the way it was? And so that will happen between now and our next meeting, and we'll then present it to you in May as a formalized document. And then between May and June meeting, we'll then go seek our community's input. So remember last year, we did a lot of community forums, we did a lot of question and answer types of things. So we could work through some of those details with our families as well. And then in June, hopefully, with all of that information, to kind of clean up the document for you guys to possibly approve in June. We don't want to go beyond June, obviously, but it's thinking back to last year, we feel like we're way ahead of the curve if we can get it in place by June. And so, and one of the things I think that I guess that you really have to consider and think about is this virtual Virginia option. You know, we just feel like it's the right thing to do as a school division for our students.
To offer it, I mean, to offer?
To offer virtual Virginia as opposed to trying to create, you know, I look across the state at all of these divisions that have pretty limitless resources and tried to stand up these online only options, and they weren't successful with it. It is just so difficult to create it. I mean, you think about the universities even that do it, it's still difficult. And so we just believe deep down that being in person is the right way to teach children and to engage children. We understand there are going to still be health concerns that some folks have. We understand that there are some kids that will actually thrive in front of a computer, but we don't believe that that's anywhere near the majority of our students, and therefore we can use a resource that's already out there to take care of those students.
So, if I can.
Yep.
You know, I'm all about coming back 5 days a week. So that's a great thing that, and I'm actually surprised that the government is allowing that or mandating it also. So that's great. With the virtual Virginia stuff, I think we should offer it, but I'm with you. I think we need to make it very strict, because those that are going to do well with it won't have a problem abiding by it. Yeah. But I know with my wife overseeing some of this, I mean, there would what we would call otherwise truant
yes.
Kids, but it's hard to really deal with that in this situation. So I think if we make it strict, it's fine. If we are too loose with it, it's going to be a disaster.
No, we don't want that at all.
And just as a little nuance, because I did have somebody ask me to bring this up today when I was asking about the schedules. So yeah, and I've actually seen some of the studies before about, you know, teenagers actually going to school later. It's better for them so they get more sleep and that kind of a thing. The concern, I think, and I don't know if you want to do a poll survey, something, or just have more of a discussion on it. But if they're going 9 to 4, they're doing it now, but there's been a lot of things that they're not doing also, out sports, after school activities in general, even working. I don't know how much that would interfere with some of the typical life once we go back to that kind of normalcy again. So something to consider about going 9 to 4 for the secondary. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I think it's something to discuss, to see how much it will impact others.
And other school divisions currently do this. Lots of school divisions do. So we can certainly bring back how things are going for them as well. So we can provide you with a lot of different data pieces to help you with that.
Yeah, I had the same. 2 or 3 people have approached me on my email about the time. Just if we were going to talk about that tonight. Same things that Ms. Cassisi stressed or mentioned. The sports, you know, for kids who are getting out at 4 and have practices late or have to go travel to games, that can be a problem. And then, yes, those who have jobs after school or after practice can't get there because they don't get out of practice at 6:30. So these were the things that were shared with me. And so it was a concern to look at having secondary go back to, what was it now? I forgot.
8
to 3. 7:40
7:45.
for those reasons, and also for reasons of being with home for the young people. So I did say that I would bring those two things up. Thank you, Ms. Casisi, for leading that off. Things to consider. I imagine when you send out the poll or your community feedback, I don't know if it'd be too late then to make the adjustment in the time. So perhaps there may be recommendations coming from yourself.
Yeah.
Look into that a little bit more. And yes, I've seen the research. You know, I've talked to kids who love going into 10. I mean, you know, they just like, wow, this is great. And then,
Not gonna do 10.
But no, but I mean, I said they love it, but it depends on another kid of what they're doing after 4.
Yeah.
You know, what curricular activities or parents having to pick them up and get them back up here and so forth and so on. So appreciate you, Ms. Casisi, leading the way in that. I had that on my notes. So I think that's more for me on the agenda than the virtual Virginia. But they both need to be explored.
So that's the feedback you're looking to get in April, May? Is that what, before, okay.
Yeah.
Putting out like a community poll kind of thing? For those specifically?
Yeah.
That time
Yeah,
thing. 'Cause that's
there are a
probably
couple of those
cost
types of things that we need to get some more information on.
But now, were those times, back it up one screen, the times you had,
Where'd it go? There it is.
were those looking at 1 run or 2 runs? What did you say?
We do 2 seats, 2 to a seat, we can do 1 run.
So that's called normal, back to normal runs?
Yeah, that's right.
With those times?
2 runs.
What now?
2 runs, like a elementary.
Oh, yeah, but
But
so,
currently we're doing 3.
so what would the back to the normal time do for the runs? I mean, who is that? Same thing? Is it a transportation thing? Let me just ask it that way.
So, stick with there. So if we run 8 o'clock and a 9 o'clock, we would start, our first pickup be about 6:30, 6:45, and we'd have delivered to the school by 8 o'clock, and then they'd leave there and go make their second run, and have those students to school by 9 o'clock.
Is that what we used to do?
Well, typically we would, 7:45 and 8:45, but typically the same thing, yes, ma'am.
So is it an obstacle, is it an issue to go back to that if recommended?
Right now,
from the
we don't see it
community?
being an obstacle. We'll be able to go with mass, two students to a seat on the bus, and we should be able to, I think we might have 3 runs where we have 1 or 2 students, elementary school students in seat 3, but their family. So that wouldn't really be an issue. On general, though, 2 students per seat is typically where we are, and we should be able to do that no problem under this time frame.
Yeah, well, just setting the stage that it's not a transportation situation. Okay, that's
No,
what I
ma'am.
was trying to clear. Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Arnold.
So we'll have a lot more for you next month, and we'll have a lot to do in the
schedule's been
meantime.
around since like 89 or 90, because I remember they switched it right before I went to the middle school.
That's right.
And I was so upset because I was looking forward to sleeping in, and I lost that. So,
I'll help you out. Well,
We've had many, in this county, we've had many.
I think lots of
Times
school
change.
divisions have kind of
Lot
gone back and
yeah.
forth, so.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Just a couple of things. The 2 students per seat, do we have to ask for an exception for that, or is that already allowed?
The way it's written in the code allows for, let me make sure I got the wording right, but go ahead, Dr. Wells.
Yeah, my understanding from reading the code and reading the CDC guidance is we can do what we need to do to get the students to school in a safe manner. So mask and 2 to a seat meets that criteria in layman's terms.
So
2 to a seat is about the 3 feet distance?
No, it won't be. So here's what you're looking at. It's part 2 of this. It says to provide such in-person instruction in a manner which it adheres to the maximum extent practicable to any currently applicable mitigation strategies. So what that's saying is, as long as, you do it as much as you can do it to meet the 5 days a week, all day, and then you have the ability to do some other things if you can't make it. Does that make sense? I mean, I understand what I'm saying.
It does. When you talk with the community,
Mhm.
I'm assuming that you'll ask them how they're feeling about that. I mean, I know if the parents are, a little hesitant to send their students back, but think that's where they need to be, and they're thinking 3 feet apart, but they have to ride the bus, and they're
Right.
not 3 feet
Well,
apart.
we'll
There
make
could
sure
be
we're
some
clear
fears
about that.
there.
Yeah, and I know that there's several school divisions that are already asking parents if they have the ability to transport their students to please try to do so. But we certainly don't want to make transportation a reason why they can't come to school.
Right, I understand. And then if they're enrolled in Virtual Virginia, are they still enrolled in Amherst
Yep.
for funding?
Yep.
And then we just pay the tuition?
That's correct.
And budget implications, am I correct? Help me remember on the budget that we just had. Did we have like a ARA administrator position in that? And so that funding and the CARES Act can be used for paying tuition?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
the CARES Act would most definitely take care of the tuition, and then anybody that we would need to add to maybe facilitate kind of that process, because it still does require some effort from an administrative, or a clerical standpoint, but.
And I know that a lot of parents have been contacting other board members, and I just will say, I've had several, and the common theme has been, let's get our kids back in school every day. I have had one parent contact me with concerns over the masks and was asking that we not mandate that, but I know according to CDC guidelines, that is still in place.
Yep.
And the other concern was for careful look at the block schedule. I don't think this parent was in support of that.
Okay.
But those were separate entities. And then my other thought I've had is if we have students that have no internet and have health issues, will we be able to provide something for them?
Right, and
To be
we
thinking on
currently
that.
provide hotspots and those kinds of things, and so
Right.
so there still could be that, but we would want to make sure that we
Certain.
yeah
Okay, thank
hold
you.
them accountable.
Is Virtual Virginia going to be set up then with all the classes that we need? Because I know this year that's why we were running around trying to get our teachers in there to teach the students also, because they weren't prepared.
Yes, ma'am. Virtual Virginia has already come out with their curriculum that they've created, so it'll be K through 12 with all of the curriculum and courses already created ahead of time.
Yep.
So we're not going to get into it.
No, they just were late getting it going. They're just late getting it all out, just because they started like when the rest of us did, but now they have it all in place.
And what about books and everything? Are we going to have to supply different books to those students that are doing the virtual?
No, ma'am. Their curriculum, textbooks, resources, everything comes straight from Virtual Virginia.
Okay. And also, if those students do the virtual, are they still going to be able to come into the school for sports and things like that?
I mean, that was the, I guess that was our stance last year, that would certainly be up to you guys if you want to continue to offer that.
Because they're still our students we're still
that's right.
counting them as our students because they still count as for funding purposes. So as long as they're in good standing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so number 4 on my list is retention. And so the reason I bring up retention because if you've talked to parents, especially elementary aged parents, that's maybe a topic that you've heard, because some parents are contemplating, should I retain my child? They haven't experienced the same type of year that they've had in the past, and I worry a little bit as a parent that maybe my student should take the grade over, or teachers are starting to talk about these things, and this is normally the time where we start having those conversations with parents. I wanted you guys to know that I have asked our principals and our schools to be patient and to take their time with these decisions. I don't think it is prudent to start making these decisions right now, because we still have a long way to go and lots of things in place that are going to help our students get to the place that they need through summer school, through Friday remediations, all of these things. So I just don't want to make a kind of a snap judgment here in April about whether a student's going to be held back or not, when they can access a lot of different programs between now and then. And so in the past, they have made these decisions prior to school being out, and I'm telling them, you don't have to do that. Work with families, talk through these things with families, because it's very likely that students, once they go through summer school, they're going to be in the right place. And we don't want then to have kids that have already been retained, and they're not going to end up with their age peers, right? And so, because retaining is a very big deal, and it has long-term implications on students and their ability to graduate. One of the major factors in whether a kid graduates or not is their age when they become juniors and seniors, and if they're in an advanced age, they tend not to stick around. And so we don't want to make that decision based on what I would say incomplete information and incomplete efforts before we do that. And I wanted to let you guys know that, because if parents start to talk to you about retention and those kinds of things, that we want to take all the opportunities that we have available to us before we make that decision. And we just think that that's in the best interest of the child.
One more question comes to my mind. The survey that you took, where you said like a third has responded, was that a survey to students or parents?
Parents. Parents, yeah, and they responded for their children, yeah.
Okay. And Dr. Arnold, you may have said, but the responses that you did get back, were they mostly secondary or mostly primary student?
Okay, sorry.
Just curious.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that. We didn't disaggregate it that way, but we can, and we'll get it to you. Okay, the last thing I have is policy discussion, and so I think I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. I want to make sure that the school board understands their role in policy, that our community understands their how they can engage in policy. I think some of the things we experienced last year with policy, I want to make sure that we're offering up a way to be transparent to our community, but to also offer you guys information in a way that you can make policy decisions with confidence. And so what you need to know about policy. So Amherst County Public Schools, we subscribe to the policy development services of the Virginia School Board Association. Some school divisions have teams of people that work on policy year-round, that work for the school system. Those are very, very large school divisions, and even those school divisions have moved away and gone to VSBA's services. This time, each year, the Virginia School Board Association produces a group of either updated, revised, or even new policies to assure that school divisions are in line with whatever changes have been made by the General Assembly, the federal government, in code. So our policies need to reflect the law. So we are staying within the law in our actions. Historically, we have brought these policies from the Virginia School Board Association to you guys to approve as Amherst County Public School policies. By code of Virginia and our own policy, it is the school board's explicit responsibility. I mean, that is responsibility number one for school boards to adopt policy. That's your number one responsibility by code for a school board. Now, ultimately, it's your purview to adopt it, not adopt it, change it, but understand any changes that this board makes to policy that VSBA has given us then renders it no longer is a VSBA supported policy, meaning that their legal teams and those kinds of things will not will not support any changes we can make. But that doesn't mean we can't do that. As a matter of fact, we have done that, but they just become Amherst County Public School policies only. So in order to help you guys with making those decisions with confidence, we're going to update kind of how we've gone about this, right? So in the past, we've given you all of the policies and said, okay, here's your first reading. And then if you have any questions over the course of the next month, ask us. Then we bring it back to you as a second reading. And then you adopt them, you don't adopt them. So what we're going to do starting in May, we're going to do it a little bit different. We will continue to submit those policies to you guys for the first read. So when so for example, in May, when we post the agenda, which is 1 week before the meeting, those policies will be posted. They will be available to public as well. We will have the first reading like we normally have the first reading of those, but what we'll do between the first reading and the second reading is we will post all of those. We'll take it out of Board Docs and post it on our website. So our community can see what those policies are. They can look at them. They can even, we will give them the opportunity to even comment on them, provide opinion, provide questions, whatever they would like to do, much like what we did with the history standards, the equity lesson. We'll make it where people can go in and provide feedback. Then a week before the second reading, we will gather all of that information and give it to you guys. That way you will know where the community stands on certain policies. And I would venture to guess that 99% of the policies will not be commented on at all, because you've seen many of these that just change a word here or there that don't have any substantive changes that impact the school in any way. But there are some, obviously, that are concerning to people and they would like to voice their concerns about them. So we want to give people the opportunity to see them and voice their concerns, and then for you guys to see what those concerns are. So when you are asked to act on these policies, which is your responsibility, you'll do it with some confidence, or at least with as much information as you can have about those policies. So next month, we have 38 new policies, and I'm going to tell you, most of them are of the variety that a word changes here, a word changes there. We will also bring back the 6 policies that y'all ask legal counsel to look at and to make adjustments to, so you will see those again. So ultimately there'll be about 44 policies that will show up here in May. But what we wanted to make sure that everybody understood, including those in our community, is that they will have access to these. We encourage you to look at them. We encourage you to comment on them, because that's going to give you guys the ability to have a better understanding of where people stand on these. And so I just felt like it was really important to kind of set the stage for all of this. I think we have just kind of been on autopilot with this. We've did it the way it's always been done. But I don't think that that's in our best interest to do it the way it's always been done. Yes, sir.
Dr. Hall, are all of these policies, do they have July 1 implications? Is that why there's, because that's kind of a dump that, you just.
Yeah, and
I didn't want to give the impression that we're burying something or anything like that. So if there's, my opinion would be to try to spread out the ones that don't have July 1 implications.
If they don't have those implications, then we can do that. We certainly do that.
Up to the rest of the board, but that's a lot to review.
And I would suggest that the ones that don't have July 1 implications are also the same ones that don't have any real impact either. And so I don't want to, I don't want to make it where you guys have to deal with policy in August that are just word changes.
Sure.
But one of the other things we're going to do, when we present policy to you, we give you kind of an impact statement on each one, if there is. We'll do that on the website too, so people don't have to read all 44 policies. They can find the ones that are most meaningful to them to read.
Okay.
But yeah, we can. We'll review it. We're preparing them right now to bring to you next month. So if they're ones that don't have any time restrictions on them, then we can certainly hold them off. It's not a problem. Any questions about that? Okay, Ms. Ligon, that is all I have tonight.
Hey.
Oh, hang on, we have crunched the data. We have 50.1% of the respondents were secondary and 49.9 were elementary.
So it's very even then.
Very even, yes,
Very
sir. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Dr. Arnold, can I just ask one quick question? For the policy that we had pulled previously, do we have to wait until the next school board meeting to receive that in our agenda, or could we have that early?
I can send it to you earlier if you want
Yes, please.
that earlier. Is that the consensus of the board? Would you like those 6 in there altered today?
I would like it early enough that we can at least look at it.
A head
Be
start
prepared.
on everything.
Yeah, no problem. That's not a problem.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Any other questions for Dr. Arnold right now? Okay. Let us do our committee reports. Mr. Terry?
Yes, ma'am. So the STEM Academy has met at least once here recently. Happy to say that throughout the course of the year, they've only had one COVID case that has caused an entire class to close down. So, and it caused one group to have to be quarantined, I guess, for 14 days. But that was that's a pretty good thing that only one class had that, and there was no transmission from student to teacher or teacher to student or whatever. We do have coming up the internship presentations for our students who will be who have done their internships this year. That's virtual, like everything else has been. Senior celebration for the STEM Academy is also coming up in May, and the CVCC graduation that they're a part of is coming up actually the same night as our next school board meeting. So we'll do a little juggling that night. But yeah, they're gearing up for the next year, and it looks like they have a full class for next year. So we're excited to see how it goes. So would you like us to do the rest of it also?
Yes, thank you, sir.
So tonight I want to start off with talking to our seniors. I had the privilege of going to the football games, and I got to see you guys out there at homecoming and seeing the 12th man group. I mean, everything you've had to go through this year, it's great to see the team spirit, the school spirit that you guys still have. You've had so much taken from you this year. It really warmed our hearts to see you guys out there just doing what you could do to support the team. It was cold that night, but you guys were still out there. The cheerleaders out there doing, supporting everything. So you guys haven't let this whole thing get to you, at least not on the surface, at least not that we can see. So I commend you all for everything you've been doing. Being able to get the improv to come back outside instead of just online, stuff like that. Thank you for sticking with it and doing all that you can do. I'd like to thank Mrs. Dean for speaking tonight. I'm not sure if she's still here. I think she might have left. But we need to hear everybody's opinion from across the county. We can't just hear one side. We need to hear everybody. So thanks, and we support everybody coming out and speaking. We don't want to hear just one thing. We need to hear everybody's side. Again, I want to say that the internship program that Ms. Booth spoke of, it's a stellar program. Love to see kids out there trying to do projects on top of school and learning real world stuff. So keep that up. That's a great thing. And look forward to the graduation stuff that you guys have brought up. It's another challenging year, but I know you guys will handle it with grace. Thank you everybody for the reports. Like I said, you're always got plenty of information for us to take in. So I too have heard from parents about the timing of when we go back next year. So it is something we need to consider, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Greiser?
All right. CIP Steering Committee, we did, like Dr. Arnold mentioned earlier, we met yesterday. There are some members on that are not affiliated directly with the school, so I think what we did is gave them the opportunity to look at that CIP study that we were presented a couple months ago, to kind of see what we're going to dealing with. And to give you an idea, we're looking at the scope we're trying to figure out how our external stakeholders we can build support within those segments, and then trying to help identify possible avenues for funding and garnering the support for obtaining that funding. So that's kind of the mission, and that we're not making decisions on things. We're trying to gather support and data that eventually that hopefully we can move forward with maintaining our infrastructure. But it was very productive meeting. I'm excited about being a part of this committee and look forward to the work that we're going to do. So, comments. Public comments. I always like for people to express their right in government to exercise their voice. So I appreciate that. The internship presentation, really enjoyed that. I think Sandy, who used to do it? Brown, was it? Used to do it back? Jones. I worked with her a lot when she managed the program, and I had them at the sheriff's office. I always, like those opportunities to give the kids, and like my colleague Ms. Terry said earlier, it gives people an insight to maybe something that they thought they wanted to do that they didn't want to do once they got into it. So that might save them some time later on down the road. So, but thank Ms. Booth for her work with that, and then Ms. Stinson for her commentary and sharing her experience. And Mr. Rose, man, I liked his enthusiasm. It made me want to go back to work at Kroger's in Madison Heights again. So I'm glad that experience is, or that program's making an impact on their lives. I am thankful for all the work that y'all have done for giving us report, giving us information, helping us make decisions. Thank the student committee or student representatives for their reports. And I'm excited about 5 days a week. I guess at a minimum, we at least nailed that down tonight to the public. We might have a little tweaking on the time, but 5 days a week. 5 days a week is this fall. So looking forward to that. And thank you all for all the work that you do.
Yes, I just wanted to say great presentation for the internships. I was looking forward to it. And also thank you to Grace Stimson and CJ Ross for telling us about their experience with the program. They did a great job. Also to our Mrs. Dean for public comment. A lot of parents don't make it up here to make their comments. It's nice when they're able to come here personally and speak with us. And also thank you to our student reps, Reagan and Colson. We appreciate you guys as always. And I actually believe I heard some bottles popping when we announced 5 days a week with the kids back in school. I think everybody's going to be extremely happy, and thank you so much.
Right.
Okay, Governor's School update. We met by Zoom yesterday, and they are moving along. Graduation's coming up in May. They've already selected their new students for the upcoming year, and I think they've worked on some scholarships and things like that are coming up maybe. So the accolades I wanted to share was the 44th Annual Central Virginia Regional Science Fair was held in March, and there were 75 students that participated from Amherst, Appomattox, Bedford, Campbell, Lynchburg, and a private school. And so in category winners, we had William Gregory from Amherst High School had third place in engineering. Ella Lewis from Amherst High School had third place in environmental science. And then William Gregory from the high school was nominated to represent Amherst at the Virginia State Science Fair that's hosted by Virginia Tech on April 10th. Not real sure what that means, but it seemed like it was an honor for him to be selected and to represent our school. And then these are some special awards, where for Women Geoscientist Award was Ella Lewis in Amherst High School. ASM Materials Education Foundation Engineering Award, William Gregory at the high school. And Stockholm Water Prize nominations, Eden Hunter from the high school. So those are some good things going on with the students and accolades to share. So that's my committee update. For my comments, before I go on to my comments, I have an action item for Dr. Arnold and the staff, and that is to review our SRO Memorandum of Understanding. In addition to creating and maintaining a safe and secure school environment, I want to make sure the SRO program is promoting a positive and supportive school climate. And I sent you some information before the meeting about that. You may not have had time to look at it, but that's my action item.
And I did get it, and I appreciate that. And Dr. Wells and I review that yearly, and so we still have time. We have time this year that we have to set up with the Sheriff's Department to review that, amend it, change it as needed. Let me ask this question. Would you want us to bring what we think would get? Would you like for us to bring to you before we take it to the Sheriff's Department to start to work with them on that? I guess that's my question. Would you all like to see what's in the MOU first, and then any recommended changes to make?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
I mean, they're going to do whatever they can do, but yeah, we can see it first.
Sure, and there are lots of models about, and I think what you had said was to be very proactive and relationship-oriented, building relationships with our students in the building. And I think we certainly can come up with language that everybody would be comfortable with, for sure.
Okay, thank you. And so, thank you guys for representing the school. It's always nice to hear the inside view of what's going on in school life, in student life, so we appreciate that. The COVID updates we get every day are getting better and better, so I'm glad to see that. And like everyone said before me, the internship accolades are great. That was very good to hear. And as far as next year goes, the preliminary survey information you provided, the stakeholders to me are speaking loud and clear about wanting to be back in person. I think we need to be moving boldly in that direction as much as possible, because I agree we need to make up for any lost time, lost learning, and that kind of thing, which I think we did good through this process anyway, but there's a lot to make up for. I think that was all. Yep, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Cece?
Okay. Thank Ms. Dean for her public comment. I encourage everyone to come speak their mind. It helps us understand what the community is feeling. I want to commend CJ and Grace for coming out and speaking. The internship was, it's just good to know what's going on with the day-to-day activities of the students. You guys, thank you for your reports. I don't know if it's good to encourage April Fool's pranks, but it was hilarious. So, it took me down memory road a little bit. I didn't do that to my principal because I was a little more respectful. No, I thought that was great. It's good to see you guys letting loose a little bit in these weird times. I don't have a whole lot else. Thank you guys for your reports, keeping us up to date on everything.
Thank you, sir. Tom?
Well, I just wanted to thank everyone, Dr. Arnold in particular, and express my appreciation for your back-to-school report. Like the other board members, a lot of parents are reaching out, and they're looking for help in getting their kids back in school, and I appreciate you taking a lead across Virginia, getting our students in school this past year, and look forward to doing that again with you in a different way this year, but doing what's right for our students and doing it safely. So I appreciate that. The second thing, I'm excited about the $7.1 million in the funds and what possibilities there are with those. I know we have talked in the past about the auditorium and expanding our CTE capabilities at the high school as maybe possibilities. And of course, funding is always a barrier in that. And I look forward to hearing from the community as to how they feel. I think the opportunity to expand some of our CTE and meet those instructional needs of our students is an exciting way that we could look for using that money. I don't want us to forget about the needs at two of our schools, especially at Elin Elementary. I know we had looked at some infrastructure plans and we sort of had backed off on that because of the cost. So that may be something we need to look at and get community feedback as well. So I guess what I'm saying is I get excited when I think about the possibilities of being able to make our high school just an exceptional high school to everyone across Virginia, to be the leader and to offer educational opportunities for our kids. Dr. Arnold, I appreciate your thoughts on maybe even looking at magnet schools. You know, those things excite me. And if our community's behind us, then I think we could move forward, and I just see that as a stepping stone. So I appreciate that very much. I also appreciate Mrs. Dean coming. One of the comments that she said that really stuck to me is that great communities are made by good people working together, and that's what I've always seen Amherst County as. Our school system has always been a group of good people, and we've always been working together. So, Dr. Arnold, once again, I want to thank you for your policy process tonight. I think that brings more transparency. It gives parents an opportunity to understand what we as a board have to look at and decisions we have to make. But I also want to encourage parents to read them, and I will tell you, if it's like what we read, it becomes very overwhelming. But your summaries will help target to where parents can look at that and go to the ones that they really feel they want to communicate to us as board members. And additionally, besides just commenting on websites, you know, they're always welcome to call us and email us as well. But we do need to hear from you in order to make right decisions. And so I appreciate the policy transparency there. I hope that we will be able to continue that transparency and fairness in some of our curriculums, such as I know there's been some things that I have been concerned about in our PBLs, and I will say that you've addressed those, and I appreciate them. I asked for English themes this past month, and I'm going to share a couple of things that I have found in that bring some concern. And so maybe we can think about ways that we can vet some of the curriculum and make sure that it's fair, it's balanced, and it's equitable to everyone. Also, I think back to when I first came on the board, and I remember we reached out to the community and the businesses to see what skills our students needed. And one of the things they said was, well, they can't read a ruler. That's the one that stuck out in my mind. But I know that we have a lot of soft skills and things like that we've really been working hard on. So my question for us to contemplate, and maybe you can answer this in the next board meeting or so, is how are we evaluating ourselves on how we're doing with those skills, so that we can look at our businesses and say, we need your help, we need internships, we have students that are prepared, these are the skills you've asked for, and you know, this is how well we're doing. And then along the lines of assessment, I know Dr. Norman, I had asked for subgroup, the MAP testing. I had asked for subgroups, and I see where you've posted that in our last agenda, and it does have it by subgroup, but it has it collectively with reading and math. It doesn't have it broken out with reading and math.
Okay, I can break that out for you. Yes,
I
ma'am.
figured you probably had already done that too. But if you could provide that for us, and if you have it by grade, if you don't have that, and that's a lot of work, at least if you can just give it to us reading and math separately. Okay. And then the student internships were fantastic. I loved hearing from the students and seeing what they're doing. That's what it's all about. So the more we see that, I think makes us feel like we're doing the right job. And I'm looking forward to the end of the year celebrations, the retirements and the graduations like everyone else. So it's a wonderful time of year. And Reagan and Colson, I just want to say thank you for what you've been doing and trying to keep the morale of all of our students and our teachers up. So yeah, I know you do make a difference with us. So thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Well, as I conclude from our previous board members' comments. I want to echo all of those. We've had a wonderful session tonight of information. We thank all public comments, of course, to come before the board, all the presentations. I'm always interested in internships because that's kind of what I do, and just excited about what Amherst County is doing in those things. Let me just back up 1 minute. Mr. Terry, or someone, how many STEM students does Amherst have?
We have 3 in each grade level, 6 total.
And
Governor's School, we have 6 seniors and 6, we may have 7 juniors. We have an extra one that we paid for previously.
Okay. I just try to keep it, I've had it before, just trying to keep it in my head about, are we in line there? Okay, appreciate it. Thank you for all your board reports. Thank you for all your comments. Just want to clarify, on the Golden A, are we doing that virtually now? What did we do?
Last year, we did a virtual Golden A ceremony because we weren't allowed to do an indoor event.
What are we doing this year?
And this year, we are probably doing the same thing because we have and this is a good thing, we have an enormous amount of students who have met those benchmarks and will be receiving Golden A trophies, and to bring them into a inside building, that's going to be difficult to do.
Oh, no. I just don't remember it last year at all. Did we?
It was virtual.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I must not have got the note.
And we'll probably be doing the same thing this year.
Okay. All right. So that's good news. And as Ms. Thompson said, I'm looking forward to all the end of year graduations and salutations. And we thank the representatives from Lands to Land. But we got 60 more days.
Something like that.
I figure you'd have it down to an hour, but don't rush that good story we have up here. We pretty much settled everything tonight. The greatest takeaways is that we've come to a milestone of returning back to school for 5 days a week. I'm sure the parents are excited. The other things we have time to work out, and we thank Dr. Arnold and his team for giving us all that great information. At least that gives us a head start on thinking about what the future holds. I get excited about summer school because it gives students another opportunity to get it together after all of these things have been going on, and for parents as well. So thank you for all of that. I don't have anything new except Laurel has not met since we met before. I do serve on the board of Lynchburg Community Action Group, which is our Head Start program, and the CEO is retiring in June, Reverend Dr. William Coleman. And so we will be informing you of the new CEO, which affects our Head Start program here in Amherst County as well, or our Step Up program. And so we will keep you posted with all of that. I don't think, have we missed anything tonight? Is there any more questions for Dr. Arnold and his staff? Dr. Arnold, any questions to the board?
I'm good.
To do that. I'm looking forward to, let's see, Mr. Gallagher, are we on that appreciation week? It's going to be giving out some gifts and prizes and so forth and so on.
We'll have a similar recognition to past years.
Okay.
Providing, well, not giving too much, but providing recognition to folks who have supported that we all have participated in the past.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Please send us some.
I will send you the plans already.
Memory is short. Okay.
Run it, to let you know exactly where the
Okay. All right. Well, everything has been wonderful. Information has been well directed to the board. If there are no further questions for the staff and for the superintendent, I'd ask for a motion of adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Have a great evening. When is that next meeting now? Let's see.